and prosperous and abundant, even though there's a lot of people in the world that don't want the rest of us to remain free and prosperous and abundant. And they've got all sorts of little tricks up their sleeves, right, to control us and watch us, much like what goes on in China. Much like what goes on in China. My understanding is the people that are financing all of the stuff in our world want to bring that to the West in a big way. It's already here in many ways. They want to go next level with it. And we know why they want to do that, because they just want more power and control. As these systems and governments grow, for government to grow, the rest of us has to shrink. Like they consume, they only consume, they don't generate anything. They're only consumers of human energy, human output, economic, spiritual, all that stuff. They can only consume and regulate us. And so eventually humanity is going to be like, and I think we're there, which is the topic of this live feed, The Great Awakening. This guide you can get at greatawakeningguide.com. But we're going to be talking all about the Great Awakening and what many believe, I believe this, that we are in WW3. And I'm going to share a quote with you from Marshall McLuhan, which is really good. But my point is this. We don't want to go down those roads of being subjected to more eyeballs, right? More tracking, more invasion of privacy. No one's going to be happy with that. No one's going to be happy with that eventually. And if we don't nip it in the bud now, it's going to get harder to nip in the bud later. And I think you obviously know what I'm talking about. So we'll be talking about that. And if you have a resource that you feel is super awesome, something, maybe a documentary, a book, a person, anything that you think will help human beings to remain free moving forward into the future, or think clearer, or think more critically, or gain a different perspective, share it in the comments down below, and I will, we'll all learn from you is what I'm talking about, either on YouTube or Instagram, because I learned so much in the comments. In fact, that was the impetus for the comment series on my YouTube channel. I'm jumping into comments that people put on my page, but I'm also jumping around the internet sharing comments on different pages. I shared the comments below Everything is a Rich Man's Trick, which is probably one of the best eye-opening red pill / truther movies you're going to come across. It's a 3-hour movie, documentary, super good. That's on YouTube. You can search it up, but there's good comments below there. And the comments is how we're able to communicate with each other, right? And we share knowledge and information and share moral support, right? And encourage one another on our journey and also in the world right now. Depending on where you're at in the world, mentally and maybe physically, your life sucks to a greater or lesser degree. I think we can all agree with that, right? Some people in the world, they're not having a great time. And other people in the world are partying like it's 1999. And it struck me big time the other day, and I made a tweet about it, that there are multiple wars and travesties going on. But in the Western world, we're gearing up for the biggest bread and circus event of the year. You can't make this up. And people will be there in their fashion and in their, bling, and it'll be like nothing's happening around the world. Not to mention, not just the wars, but also the economic bullying that we do to countries and the exploitation of countries. And I know that humans have been doing that for a long time, but are we not advanced and awakened and aware more than we ever have been? I think this is an opportunity for us. That's why I put that together. I've never felt or seen this many people awakening at the same time. I think there's some spiritual things going on. I think there's some physical things going on, but there's something moving on the earth and in us that is facilitating the awakening. And of course, let's also give some of the credit to the complete clown show whether it was on purpose or whether they were really trying. If that was their A game, that's hilarious in and of itself. Jury's still out on whether that was their A game or whether they meant to look like bumbling idiots for some reason to further divide us, right? But I've never felt that there is in my lifetime that I've ever felt there's this much potential to awaken and maybe unshackle ourselves from the system, because we're shackled to the system. Financiers, money people, just like they did back in Jesus's time, they run the show. And the only reason, well, one of the reasons people are waking up, this is one of the physical reasons, is people are finding it harder and harder to make ends meet. And especially entry-level people, meaning younger people that are coming into the workforce, and they're like, this isn't working for me. The reality is it's not working for anyone. And that's one of the reasons why people are waking up, because they're like, hey, I call bullshit on this. And the reason that's doing that is because these systems rise and fall. That's the main reason. These systems rise and fall. Ray Dalio talks about it in his series, which is in the Great Awakening Guide. His series on, I think it's, well, I don't know what exactly the title of it, but it's in there. It's something about the rise and fall of the changing world order. And he talks about how countries change with each other, which is part of the game, quite frankly. But we all know there's some exterior influences that are at play as well. I'm talking about the Federal Reserve, and they're not doing any of us any good because they keep kicking the can down the road. And word on the street now is that the next time that the market implodes or drops or takes a hit, we might not come back. I think it's fair to say we're this round, this level, this game might be done till the next reset, which is what they want to do, which is the Great Reset, which is why we have to have a Great Awakening, right? They want to do a Great Reset. And if you watch the documentary it's called The Great Taking, you can also visit thegreattaking.com. If they do the reset in the way they want to do the reset, none of us are going to be very happy. And the irony is, the hilariousness of it is, they have already told us. They're so confident, so arrogant that they stand up there and they say, you will own nothing and be happy about it. Have a nice day. And then they go off to their little tea at Davos. Like, that's how confident they are of it. And a lot of people are still, not a lot, some people are still unaware of what's happening, because I still see them engaging in a way to the old system. And maybe that's going to be the case. See, I sometimes, and I've had this happen to me throughout my lifetime, and I think it's common for people, but this idea of how I perceive the world is how others perceive the world. And I forget that we're all on our own individual journey and awakening at different times in different ways about different things. And so I wish there was some kind of a gauge or a meter that would tell us where the consciousness, and I think there is. I got to look into this because I ran across a video recently about this, and I'll try to share it. But if it could gauge the consciousness of the planet, like all the human beings, where's their consciousness? And I want to say Dr. Hawkins did that, David Hawkins, if I've got the name right. Maybe that exists. It would be really handy to know about now, to see, because when you're cooking something in the oven, you put the thermometer in to check to see how done it is. Well, maybe we need that to check and see, how awake the planet is, because none of the systems can go on. Healthcare system, especially in the West, which is all that I know, is a complete joke. It's very expensive. It's not working for many people. As we saw in the last 3 years, if you're taking your orders from the federal government, the most bumblesome and incompetent, and I don't attach any negative meaning to this. I'm just looking at past results. Bumblesome, incompetent, and or corrupt organizations on the planet. If you're taking your medicine advice from them, you got a problem. We got a real problem. The education system is a complete mess, because when you're putting ideas into kids' minds, like we're seeing now, and in effect weaponizing them against their country, their family, themselves. That's a major problem. Food industry's all jacked up, right? Lots of stuff, especially in the West, lots of stuff in our food that is harmful to us, that is suppressing life and also cognitive ability. And then, of course, we have the psychological war that is going on with the movies and the entertainment and the distractions, the bread and circuses. Back to the biggest bread and circus in the world tomorrow. There's never been a better opportunity that I feel for people to like put the brakes on and say, hey, we're done with your systems. We're done playing your game. We need a new way. The planet needs a new way. Everything needs a new way. Because like I say, if you watch the documentary, The Great Taking on YouTube, it's an hour and 9 minutes, you will understand their plan. And they're not playing. Like, they're not playing around. The way that I tell people is this, because a lot of people have this idea of like, oh, well, Mark, how are they going to do that? That's absurd. You're being a conspiracy theorist. But it's not absurd. They've already done something similar 2 times in my lifetime. And when I say similar, the crash in early 2000, what was that? The tech bubble, the crash in early 2000s, and the crash in 08, the major financial crash in 08, because these crashes get worse and worse as time goes on. That's why people say the next time it goes, it's not coming back. And I believe that. So they've done it twice, in early 2000s and 2008. They took money from the, tax base of America, from the government covered that tab. The government covered the tab. The government doesn't make or produce anything. The government gets their money from us. So we covered that tab. This is when you tell this to people, their minds start going, oh shit, I can see how the Great Taking come about. So the financial industry, those businesses were very risky. They crashed it in 2000, bubble, crash. And in 08, bubble, bigger crash, right? Getting risky investments, doing all sorts of bullshit, spinning up that money, making a lot of money in the process. And when shit goes south, who picks up the tab? You and I pick up the tab. The government just wrote a check from the account that we put money into via the tax system. And also, but what it really is the government cut the check and wrote a debt note. And the name on that debt note is everyone living in the United States. So we've already bailed them out twice. The big financial institutions of the United States and the world. The Great Taking is about what they want to do the next time shit goes south. And it is bailing them out again. But the only way they're going to be able to bail them out is by taking the collateral, because there's no more money in the system. That currency is useless. The currency has crashed. It no longer has the full faith and whatever of the federal government, because everyone is like, your currency's busted. Like, your currency is done. And they're like, I don't want it anymore. I don't care how big your military is. I don't want it anymore. That will happen. That will happen. And it's spinning very quickly now, because the only thing that's keeping the velocity of money high, and it's not that high, according to David Rogers Webb, the only thing that's keeping the velocity of money, which is the exchange of currency, is the Fed is pushing money into the system artificially. Not a lot of people are trading money because they're looking really... there's going to be opportunities. Don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of skepticism and hesitation because people see the US dollar is dying. Oh, it's collapsing. Yeah, the house of cards is coming down, just like the house of cards comes down on all empires. And it's so hilarious that they have to go down the same way by this like over expansion, and then basically dying from within because they're overly expanded into what do we got, 1,000 military bases? I don't know how many military bases around the globe, but we've pushed our empire the whole globe, and now the core is all jacked up. And also we're in a vulnerable position because we know that there are people in the world that want to create a new world order, that have been looking to do this and planning on this and working toward this for 70 years, maybe more. I don't know. I don't know. But they want to put a one world order in because men have always historically wanted to conquer the world. This is why I don't understand how people don't think this is happening now. They want to people want to conquer the world. Ambitious, sick people want to conquer the world. There's void missing inside of them. They feel they need more and more and more. There's something wrong and the screw lost in the head. Rather than come here and enjoy God's creation and create more of heaven on earth, they want to do just the opposite, which is invert it and do and mess with people as much as possible. So people are waking up to that. Again, the Great Awakening and this war that we find ourselves in, which has all the telltale signs of war, which is why Marshall McLuhan, he was a media professor, student of media, studied it and really understood the psychology of media. He said this about WW3. He said WW3 is a guerrilla information war with no division between military and civilian participation. That feels accurate because in all of the other wars that quote unquote wars we've had, which have, when we really figure it out, have really just been, ways to extract wealth from the American people and put it in the hands of the, 1% or the people that own defense contract companies, make bombs and stuff. So we give it to them who own the defense. They call it defense. They're bomb factories. They're weapons manufacturers. And weapons manufacturers do bad things to human beings. Doesn't matter if the human being's on the other side of the planet and they've told us that they're an enemy, they're still going to do a bad thing. I now believe most of what we hear / all of what we hear is complete and total bullshit. But he said, WW3 is a guerrilla information war with no division between military and civilian participation. And this feels accurate right about now. I feel we are being attacked spiritually for sure, psychologically, all the weird movies, all the weird TV shows, alien invasions and horror shows. No, you don't need to watch a horror show in 2024 because it's playing out on the global stage. Wars and supply chain interruptions and, potentially moving people around the world. I'm not going to say the two words that goes on, putting people into slavery of sorts, all the things. There's a culmination of things going on. Indoctrination of children, parents are like, you hear a lot of articles and they're like, I don't know this kid. Like the kid went to college, came back a different person. And I realize kids find themselves in college many times, but I think they're being further indoctrinated. There's just some weird shit going on in the world, which is also an invitation. I want to take this opportunity to reach out to you. If you have your head on straight, use your platform and or your voice, if you feel so inclined, to speak to these kids, because I feel for kids these days. I think their heads are spinning because they're being told so many things. And also, I think kids internalize stress and anxiety different than adults and could put a lot of trauma into their little bodies because they're looking around and maybe see mom and dad sketched out for a myriad of different reasons, right? Financially, socially, psychologically, physically, maybe they're not taking care of themselves. And the kids, they're going to internalize a lot of that. And so if we are in WW3, and I believe that we are, and it's a soft war, it's a silent war, if just because adults are making it through and have coping skills doesn't mean the kids do. This is why over the last 3 years, kids fell so far behind in schools because they're less adaptable in that way, right? They're still growing. So if you shock them with a traumatic situation, yes, it's going to imprint deeply. Whereas adults have the skill set to go, well, no, especially if the kids are under 7, they're just sponges soaking it all in. So if you got wonky energy in the world and people all freaked out, kids are going to pick up on that. And then another casualty of war down the road, that trauma, just like in real war, or historical war, the traditional definition of war, that trauma messes with those men and women, and sometimes it never goes away. You read horror stories about North Korea, which apparently they're very hard on their soldiers, and the men and the women have to join that war, and the men come home broken. Maybe, and the women probably come home broken too, because because of the psychological abuse that's done to those soldiers. And we do the same. I'm sure we do the same thing to our soldiers, right? Um, there's I just feel that humanity has been tricked for too long to, be warlike and go to war, and buy that propaganda of, we've been tricked into doing the bidding of people with power and influence and money, and it's not working any longer for anyone. And this is a huge opportunity for us to kind of say, hey, we're not going to play your game anymore. But it really will take a mass awakening, because people sleepwalking, like I used to be in a bigger way, like I still am in many ways. I don't think someone ever comes fully awake. I think it's a continual, unfolding, or deeper and deeper levels of awareness about life and ourselves. In fact, I'm even over the last weeks, like things are definitely speeding up in my world, because my ideas are changing about things. And I no longer believe some of the things that I believed a week ago. That's a wild ride right there, as you probably know. Um, with when your perception changes so quickly, you can sense it and see it. That's wild. Sometimes perception doesn't change sometimes for a lifetime, or definitely for like a half a lifetime, and then you maybe have like a midlife crisis or something, and you're like, oh shit, reinvent myself, relook at the world, review. But there's an opportunity here for us like we've never had before, to say, hey, we're done. We're done with your system, and we're going to, go back to living the right way. So let me share with you anything that I might have. Illegal immigration is also another way that we're being. It's a war tactic, right? Let's throw a bunch of people at you, though they're pawns. We're already pawns in the game. They're using the people to push into the boat, so to speak. If our country was like a boat, eventually that boat's going to sink. Mayor Eric Adams already said it. This might have destroyed New York. He legitimately said that, which, if that's not suspect, the kind of ultimate suspect, like when you go to the person and handcuff them and maybe put them in jail and say, yeah, you just destroyed a city. I don't know how you can destroy a city or an economy and not go to jail, but like maybe litter or jaywalk and you may be in the slammer. Like, it is mind boggling to me. That shows you how much we don't run the show. Like, someone else is running the show. If the mayor of New York City can say, send me everyone you want to, and I'll take care of them. And a few months later, he's like, uh-oh, busted. Okay, I guess I'm not living in the same rational world as everyone else, because that man should be out of his position and thinking about the consequences of his actions in a jail cell, and someone else should come in. So that you're not running the show there. It's a travesty for everyone. Just like what's happening in Israel is a travesty for everyone. You think the world, the like tensions are rising. We're all pawns in the game that they're playing. And again, they don't care who wins or loses the game. They're just playing the game because that's what they do. Their goal is chaos and destruction. And as a normal human being, your goal is like harmony and supporting life and creating. That's what normal human beings whose hearts and minds are in the right places do when they come into the world. They create and they interact and they make the world a better place, right? People who are twisted, they come into the world and go, oh, how much can I screw with God's creation? How much can I invert it? What can I do to confuse them and teach the kids? Because it's easy. They know it's easier to teach kids, just like I said. They're more impressionable, especially the 1 to 7. They just soak it all in. And where do a lot of Americans put their kids? Someone else is raising them. Preschool, kindergarten, the system co-parents with you if you do that. And then they wonder why the kids might have gone down a path or, act in certain ways and strange. It didn't used to be like that. We talked about the food, we talked about the education, and of course the economic, right? When they're making the inflation, driving the value, the value of the dollars in your pocket down, that's economic warfare. So, I hope that you're doing well and surviving and thriving. And I hope this what's happening in the world, like it's doing for many people, pushing us out of our comfort zone, helping us find our voice, helping us be more courageous in the world to speak truth to the bullshit that's going on. That's what I feel all people are being called upon to do. The way I describe this war is, in this war, there will be no conscientious objectors. There will be no one on the sideline, because everyone's going to get on the field, because they pushed real hard, and they made a major aggression that woke a lot of people up that were asleep prior. And I was one of those people, So anyway, thank you for watching. If you are so inclined, head over to the Focus and Flow store at focusandflow.co and check out the products and apparel I have there. Things like stickers, mugs, sweatshirt, shirts, all designed to remind you that you are an infinite spiritual being created in the image and likeness of God, here having a human experience. And the goal is to make heaven on earth. The goal is to fully express yourself in a way that enriches your life and also enriches other people's lives. Like Stephen Pressfield talked about in the back of The War of Art. When you create and do your thing, make your music, express yourself in the way that you are meant to be doing it, we all win. You win, the angels that watch over you win, humanity wins, all of us win. That's the idea behind Focus and Flow, right? Is to focus from an interior aspect in your consciousness and in your being, and make your changes there using your imagination and your emotionation, right? And living in the end, as Neville Goddard talks about, being the person you want to be so that you can create the things and experiences you want to create. This is where the spiritual war comes into play. They have just, in many cases, the people that are against humanity in this war and that have been trying to mess with humanity the whole time, they appear to have knowledge that the majority of people may not have. I think it's out there. Again, it's available, it's getting out. And that's why I think so many people are waking up, this idea of, that life is a state of consciousness, that our state of being is super powerful, that what we're thinking about, we're bringing about, right? We have a thought and an emotion, and we marry those two, and it becomes very powerful and changes our perception and changes the way we look at the world. And we can then take actions on that can either bring about something positive or something negative, depending on the ingredients we're putting into our mind. That's how powerful it is. And I always go back to the notion the kingdom of heaven is within. I don't pray outward, I pray inward. I pray inward, asking for those things from the location where the kingdom of God within. And then that's when life gets really good. But anyway, that's what that's about. Focusandflow.co. New things coming down the line. But I want to thank you for listening to this video. And until next time, I wish you all the best health, wealth, and success. Bye-bye.